The Ninth Book of the Odysseys of Homer. The Argument. Ulysses here is first made known, who tells the stern contention his powers did 'gainst the Cicons try, and thence to the Lotophagi extends his conquest, and from them assays the Cyclop Polypheme, and by the crafts his wits apply, he puts him out his only eye. Another Argument. Iota. The strangely fed Lotophagi, the Cicons fled, the Cyclops' eye. Ulysses thus resolved the king's demands: Alcinous, in whom this empire stands, you should not of so natural right disinherit your princely feast, as take from it the spirit to hear a poet, that in accent brings the gods' breasts down, and breathes them as he sings, is sweet and sacred. Nor can I conceive in any commonweal what more doth give note of the just and blessed empery, than to see comfort universally cheer up the people, when in every roof she gives observers a most human proof of men's contents. To see a neighbour's feast adorn it through, and thereat hear the breast of the divine Muse, men in order set, a wine page waiting, tables crown'd with meat, set close to guests that are to use it skill'd, the cupboards furnish'd, and the cups still fill'd. This shows, to my mind, most humanely fair, nor should you, for me, still the heav'nly air, that stirr'd my soul so, for I love such tears as fall from fit notes, beaten through mine ears with repetitions of what heav'n hath done, and break from hearty apprehension of God and goodness, though they show my ill. And therefore doth my mind excite me still, to tell my bleeding moan, but much more now, to serve your pleasure, that to overflow my tears with such cause may by sighs be driven, though ne'er so much plagued I may seem by heav'n. And now my name, which way shall lead all to my miseries after, that their sounds may fall through your ears also, and show, having fled so much affliction, first who rests his head in your embraces, when, so far from home, I knew not where t' obtain it resting room. I am Ulysses Laertiades, the fear of all the world for policies, for which my facts as high as heav'n resound. I dwell in Ithaca, earth's most renown'd, all overshadow'd with the shake leaf hill, tree fam'd Neritus, whose near confines fill islands a number, well inhabited, that under my observance taste their bread. Dulichius, Samos, and full of food Zacynthus, likewise grac'd with store of wood. But Ithaca, though in the seas it lie, yet lies she so aloft she casts her eye quite over all the neighbour continent, far northward situate, and being lent but little favour of the morn and sun with barren rocks and cliffs is overrun. And yet of hardy youths a nurse of name, nor could I see a soil, where'er I came, more sweet and wishful. Yet from hence was I withheld with horror by the deity divine Calypso, in her cavy house, enflam'd to make me her sole lord and spouse. Circe Ææa too, that knowing dame, whose veins the like affections did inflame, detain'd me likewise, but to neither's love could I be tempted, which doth well approve, nothing so sweet is as our country's earth, and joy of those from whom we claim our birth. Though roofs far richer we far off possess, yet, from our native, all our more is less. To which as I contend, I will tell the much distress'd conferring facts that fell by Jove's divine prevention, since I set from ruin'd Troy my first foot in retreat. From Ilion ill winds cast me on the coast the Cicons hold, where I employ'd mine host for Ismarus, a city built just by my place of landing, of which victory made me the expugner. I depeopled it, slew all the men, and did their wives remit, with much spoil taken, which we did divide, that none might need his part. I then applied all speed for flight, but my command therein, fools that they were, could no observance win of many soldiers, who, with spoil fed high, would yet fill higher, and excessively fell to their wine, gave slaughter on the shore cloven-footed beeves and sheep in mighty store. In mean space Cicons did to Cicons cry, when of their nearest dwellers instantly many and better soldiers made strong head, that held the continent, and managed their horse with high skill, on which they would fight, when fittest cause serve, and again alight, with soon seen vantage, and on foot contend. Their concourse swift was, and had never end, as thick and sudden 'twas as flowers and leaves dark spring discovers, when she light receives. And then began the bitter fate of Jove to alter us unhappy, which even strove to give us suff'rance. At our fleet we made enforced stand, and there they did invade our thrust up forces. Darts encounter'd darts, with blows on both sides, either making parts good upon either, while the morning shone, and sacred day her bright increase held on, though much outmatch'd in number. But soon as Phœbus westward fell, the Cicons won much hand of us. 6 proved soldiers fell. Of every ship the rest they did compel To seek of flight escape from death and fate. Thence sad in heart we sail'd, and yet our state Was something cheer'd, that being o'ermatch'd so much In violent number, our retreat was such As sav'd so many. Our dear loss the less, That they surviv'd so like for like success. Yet left we not the coast. Before we call'd home to our country earth, the souls exhal'd of all the friends the Cicons overcame. Thrice call'd we on them by their sev'ral name, and then took leave. Then from the angry north cloud gathering Jove a dreadful storm call'd forth Against our navy, cover'd shore and all with gloomy vapours. Night did headlong fall from frowning heaven, and then hurl'd here and there was all our navy. The rude winds did tear in 3, in 4 parts all their sails, and down driven under hatches were we, press'd to drown. Up rush'd we yet again, and with tough hand, 2 days, 2 nights entoil'd, we gat near land, labours and sorrows eating up our minds. The 3rd clear day yet, to more friendly winds we masts advanc'd, we white sails spread, and sate. 4 winds and guides again did iterate Our ease and home hopes, which we clear had reach'd, Had not, by chance, a sudden north wind fetch'd With an extreme sea quite about again Our whole endeavours, and our course constrain'd To giddy round, and with our bowed sails greet Dreadful Malea, calling back our fleet As far north as Cythera. 9 days more adverse winds toss'd me, and the 10th, the shore where dwelt the blossom fed Lotophagi, I fetch'd, fresh water took in, instantly fell to our food a shipboard, and then sent 2 of my choice men to the continent, adding a 3rd, a herald, to discover what sort of people were the rulers over the land next to us. Where, the first they met were the Lotophagi, that made them eat their country diet, and no ill intent hid in their hearts to them, and yet the event to ill converted it. For, having eat their dainty viands, they did quite forget, as all men else that did but taste their feast, both countrymen and country, nor address'd any return to inform what sort of men made fix'd abode there, but would needs maintain abode themselves there, and eat that food ever. I made out after, and was fain to sever the enchanted knot by forcing their retreat, that striv'd and wept, and would not leave their meat for heav'n itself, but, dragging them to fleet, I wrapp'd in sure bands both their hands and feet, and cast them under hatches, and away commanded all the rest without least stay, lest they should taste the Loti too, and forget with such strange raptures their despised retreat. All then aboard, we beat the sea with oars, and still with sad hearts sail'd by outway shores, till the outlaw'd Cyclops' land we fetch'd, a race of proud‐liv'd loiterers, that never sow, nor put plant in earth, nor use a plough, but trust in God for all things, and their earth, unsown, unplough'd, gives every offspring birth that other lands have, wheat and barley, vines that bear in goodly grapes delicious wines, and Jove sends showers for all. No counsels there, nor counsellors, nor laws, but all men bear their heads aloft on mountains, and those steep, and on their tops too, and their houses keep in vaulty caves, their households govern'd all by each man's law, impos'd in sev'ral, nor wife nor child awed, but as he thinks good, none for another caring. But there stood another little isle, well stor'd with wood, betwixt this and the entry, neither nigh the Cyclops' isle, nor yet far off doth lie. Men's want it suffer'd, but the men's supplies The goats made with their inarticulate cries. Goats beyond number this small island breeds, So tame that no access disturbs their feeds. No hunters, that the tops of mountains scale, And rub through woods with toil, seek them at all. Nor is the soil with flocks fed down, not plow'd, Nor ever in it any seed was sow'd, Nor placed the neighbour Cyclops their delights In brave vermilion prow deck'd ships, nor rights Useful and skilful in such works as need Perfection to those traffics that exceed Their natural confines, to fly out and see Cities of men, and take in mutually The prease of others. To themselves they live, And to their island that enough would give A good inhabitant. And time of year Observ'd to all things art could order there. There, close upon the sea, sweet meadows spring, That yet of fresh streams want no watering To their soft burthens, but of special yield. Your vines would be there, and your common field But gentle work make for your plow, yet bear A lofty harvest when you came to shear, For passing fat the soil is. In it lies A harbour so opportune, that no ties, Halsers, or gables need, nor anchors cast. Whom storms put in there, are with stay embrac'd, Or to their full wills safe, or winds aspire To pilots' uses their more quick desire. At entry of the haven, a silver ford Is from a rock impressing fountain pour'd, All set with sable poplars. And this port Were we arriv'd at, by the sweet resort Of some God guiding us, for 'twas a night So ghastly dark all port was past our sight. Clouds hid our ships, and would not let the moon Afford a beam to us, the whole isle won By not an eye of ours. None thought the blore That then was up shov'd waves against the shore, That then to an unmeasur'd height put on. We still at sea esteem'd us, till alone Our fleet put in itself, and then were strook Our gather'd sails, our rest ashore we took, And day expected. When the morn gave fire, We rose and walk'd, and did the isle admire. The nymphs, Jove's daughters, putting up a herd Of mountain goats to us, to render cheer'd My fellow soldiers. To our fleet we flew, Our crooked bows took, long piled darts, and drew Ourselves in 3 parts out, when, by the grace That God vouchsaf'd, we made a gainful chase. 12 ships we had, and every ship had 9 fat goats allotted, 10 only mine. Thus all that day, even till the sun was set, We sat and feasted, pleasant wine and meat Plenteously taking; for we had not spent Our ruddy wine a ship board. Supplement of large sort each man to his vessel drew, When we the sacred city overthrew That held the Cicons. Now then saw we near The Cyclops' late prais'd island, and might hear The murmur of their sheep and goats, and see Their smokes ascend. The sun then set, and we, when night succeeded, Took our rest ashore. And when the world the morning's favour wore, I call'd my friends to council, charging them To make stay there, while I took ship and stream With some associates, and explor'd What men the neighbour island held, If of rude disdain, churlish and tyrannous, Or minds bewray'd, pious and hospitable. Thus much said, I boarded, and commanded to ascend My friends and soldiers to put off and lend Way to our ship. They boarded, sat, and beat the old sea forth, till we might see the seat The great Cyclop held for his abode, Which was a deep cave, near the common road Of ships that touch'd there, thick with laurels spread, Where many sheep and goats lay shadowed, and near to this a hall of torn up stone, High built with pines, that heav'n and earth atone, And lofty fronted oaks, in which kept house A man in shape immane and monstrous, Fed all his flocks alone, nor would afford Commerce with men, but had a wit abhorr'd, His mind his body answering. Nor was he like any man that food Could possibly enhance so hugely, But, beheld alone, show'd like a steep hill's top, All overgrown with trees and brambles. Little thought had I of such vast objects. When arriv'd so nigh, Some of my lov'd friends I made stay aboard to guard my ship, and 12 with me I shor'd, the choice of all. I took besides along a goat skin flagon of wine, black and strong, that Maro did present, Evantheus' son, and priest to Phœbus, who had mansion in Thracian Ismarus, the town I took. He gave it me, since I with reverence strook of his grave place his wife and children's good, freed all of violence. Amidst a wood, sacred to Phœbus, stood his house, from whence he fetch'd me gifts of varied excellence, 7 talents of fine gold, a bowl all fram'd of massy silver, but his gift most fam'd was 12 great vessels, fill'd with such rich wine as was incorruptible and divine. He kept it as his jewel, which none knew but he himself, his wife, and he that drew. It was so strong that never any fill'd a cup, where that was but by drops instill'd and drunk it off, but 'twas before allay'd with 20 parts in water, yet so sway'd the spirit of that little, that the whole a sacred odour breath'd about the bowl. Had you the odour smelt, and scent it cast, it would have vex'd you to forbear the taste. And then, the taste gain'd too, the spirit it wrought to dare things high, set up an end my thought. Of this a huge great flagon full I bore, And, in a good large knapsack, victuals store, And long'd to see this heap of fortitude That so illiterate was, and upland rude That laws divine nor human he had learn'd. With speed we reach'd the cavern, nor discern'd His presence there; his flocks he fed at field. Entering his den, each thing beheld did yield Our admiration; shelves with cheeses heap'd, Sheds stuff'd with lambs and goats, distinctly kept, Distinct the biggest, the more mean distinct the youngest. And in their precinct, proper and placeful, stood The troughs and pails in which he milk'd, and what Was giv'n at meals, set up a creaming, In the evening still all scouring bright as dew upon the hill. Then were my fellows instant to convey Kids, cheeses, lambs, a ship board, and away Sail the salt billow. I thought best not so, but better otherwise, and first would know what guest gifts he would spare me. Little knew my friends on whom they would have prey'd. His view prov'd after, that his inwards were Too rough for such bold usage. We were bold enough in what I suffer'd, which was there to stay, Make fire, and feed there, though bear none away. There sat we, till we saw him feeding come, And on his neck a burthen lugging home, Most highly huge, of sere wood, which the pile That fed his fire supplied all supper while. Down by his den he threw it, and up rose A tumult with the fall. Afraid, we close withdrew ourselves, while he into a cave Of huge receipt his high fed cattle drave. All that he milk'd, the males he left without His lofty roofs, that all bestow'd about With rams and buck goats were. And then a rock He lift aloft, that damm'd up to his flock The door they enter'd. 'Twas so hard to wield, That 22 wagons, all 4 wheel'd, Could they be loaded, and have teams that were Proportion'd to them, could not stir it there. Thus making sure, he kneel'd, and milk'd his ewes And braying goats, with all a milker's dues, Then let in all their young. Then quick did dress His half milk up for cheese, and in a press Of wicker press'd it; put in bowls the rest To drink and eat, and serve his supping feast. All works dispatch'd thus, he began his fire, Which blown, he saw us, and thus did enquire: "Ho, guests, what are ye? Whence sail ye these seas? Traffic or rove ye, and like thieves oppress Poor strange adventurers, exposing so Your souls to danger, and your lives to woe?" This utter'd he, when fear from our hearts took The very life, to be so thunder struck With such a voice, and such a monster see. But thus I answer'd: "Erring Grecians, we From Troy were turning homewards, but by force Of adverse winds, in far diverted course, Such unknown ways took, and on rude seas toss'd, As Jove decreed, are cast upon this coast. Of Agamemnon, famous Atreus' son, We boast ourselves the soldiers, who hath won Renown that reacheth heav'n, to overthrow So great a city, and to ruin so many nations. Yet at thy knees lie our prostrate bosoms, forc'd with pray'rs to try if any hospitable right or boon of other nature, such as have been won by laws of other houses, thou wilt give. Reverence the Gods, thou greatest of all that live. We suppliants are, and hospitable Jove Pours wreak on all whom pray'rs want pow'r to move, And with their plagues together will provide That humble guests shall have their wants supplied." He cruelly answer'd: "O thou fool," said he, "To come so far, and to importune me With any God's fear, or observéd love! We Cyclops care not for your goat fed Jove, Nor other blessed ones; we are better far. To Jove himself dare I bid open war, To thee, and all thy fellows, if I please. But, tell me, where's the ship that by the seas Hath brought thee hither? If far off, or near, Inform me quickly." These his temptings were; But I too much knew not to know his mind, And craft with craft paid, telling him the wind, Thrust up from sea by him that shakes the shore, Had dash'd our ships against his rocks, and tore Her ribs in pieces close upon his coast, And we from high wrack sav'd, the rest were lost. He answer'd nothing, but rush'd in, and took two of my fellows up from earth, And strook their brains against it. Like two whelps they flew about his shoulders, And did all embrue the blushing earth. No mountain lion tore two lambs so sternly, Lapp'd up all their gore, gush'd from their torn bodies limb by limb, Trembling with life yet, ravish'd into him, Both flesh and marrow stuffed bones he eat, And even the uncleansed entrails made his meat. We, weeping, cast our hands to heav'n, to view a sight so horrid. Desperation flew, with all our after lives, To instant death, in our believ'd destruction. But when breath the fury of his appetite Had got, because the gulf his belly reach'd his throat, Man's flesh and goat's milk, laying layer on layer, Till near chok'd up was all the pass for air, Along his den, amongst his cattle, down He rush'd, and streak'd him. When my mind was grown desperate to step in, draw my sword, and part his bosom where the strings about the heart Circle the liver, and add strength of hand. But that rash thought more stay'd did countermand, For there we all had perish'd, since it past Our powers to lift aside a log so vast As barr'd all outscape, and so sigh'd away The thought all night, expecting active day. Which come, he first of all his fire inflames, Then milks his goats and ewes, then to their dames Lets in their young, and wondrous orderly With manly haste dispatch'd his housewif'ry. Then to his breakfast, to which other two Of my poor friends went; which eat, out then go His herds and fat flocks, lightly putting by The churlish bar, and clos'd it instantly; For both those works with ease as much he did, As you would ope and shut your quiver lid. With storms of whistlings then his flock he drave Up to the mountains, and occasion gave For me to use my wits, which to their height I striv'd to screw up, that a vengeance might By some means fall from thence. And Pallas now Afforded a full ear to my neediest vow. This then my thoughts preferr'd: a huge club Laid close by his milk house, which was now In way to dry in season, being An olive tree, which late he fell'd, and being green, Must be made lighter for his manage. 'Twas so vast, that we resembled it To some fit mast, to serve a ship of burthen That was driven with 20 oars, and had a bigness giv'n To bear a huge sea. Full so thick, so tall, We judg'd this club, which I, in part, hew'd small, And cut a fathom off. The piece I gave Amongst my soldiers, to take down and shave; Which done, I sharpen'd it at top, and then Harden'd in fire. I hid it in the den Within a nasty dunghill reeking there, Thick, and so moist it issued everywhere. Then made I lots cast by my friends to try Whose fortune serv'd to dare the bor'd out eye Of that man eater. And the lot did fall On 4 I wish'd to make my aid of all, And I the 5th made, chosen like the rest. Then came the even, and he came from the feast Of his fat cattle, drave in all, nor kept One male abroad, if or his memory slept by God's direct will, or of purpose was his driving in of all then, doth surpass my comprehension. But he closed again the mighty bar, milked, and did still maintain all other observation as before. His work all done, 2 of my soldiers more at once he snatch'd up, and to supper went. Then dared I words to him, and did present a bowl of wine with these words: "Cyclop, take a bowl of wine from my hand, that may make way for the man's flesh thou hast eat, and show what drink our ship held, which in sacred vow I offer to thee to take ruth on me in my dismission home. Thy rages be now no more sufferable. How shall men, man and inhuman that thou art, again greet thy abode, and get thy actions grace, if thou ragest and eat'st up their race?" He took, and drunk, and vehemently joy'd to taste the sweet cup, and again employ'd my flagon's powers entreating more, and said: "Good guest, again afford my taste thy aid, and let me know thy name, and quickly now, that in thy recompense I may bestow a hospitable gift on thy desert, and such a one as shall rejoice thy heart. For to the Cyclops too the gentle earth bears gen'rous wine, and Jove augments her birth in store of such, with showers, but this rich wine fell from the river, that is mere divine, of nectar and ambrosia." This again I gave him, and again, nor could the fool abstain, but drunk as often. When the noble juice had wrought upon his spirit, I then gave use to fairer language, saying: "Cyclop, now, as thou demandest, I'll tell my name. Do thou make good thy hospitable gift to me. My name is No Man. No Man each degree of friends, as well as parents, call my name." He answer'd, as his cruel soul became: "No Man, I'll eat thee last of all thy friends, and this is that in which so much amends I vow to thy deservings. Thus shall be my hospitable gift made good to thee." This said, he upwards fell, but then bent round his fleshy neck, and sleep, with all crowns crown'd, subdued the savage. From his throat brake out my wine, with man's flesh gobbets like a spout. When loaded with his cups, he lay and snor'd, and then I took the club's end up, and gor'd the burning coal heap, that the point might heat; confirm'd my fellows' minds, lest fear should let their vow assay, and make them fly my aid. Straight was the olive lever I had laid amidst the huge fire to get hardening, hot, and glow'd extremely, though 'twas green, which got from forth the cinders. Close about me stood my hearty friends, but that which did the good was God's good inspiration, that gave a spirit beyond the spirit they used to have, who took the olive spar, made keen before, and plunged it in his eye, and up I bore bent to the top close, and help'd pour it in, with all my forces. And as you have seen a shipwright bore a naval beam, he oft thrusts at the auger's froof, works still aloft, and at the shank help others, with a cord wound round about to make it sooner board, all plying the round still. So into his eye the fiery stake we labour'd to imply. Out gush'd the blood that scalded, his eyeball thrust out a flaming vapour that scorch'd all his brows and eyelids. His eye strings did crack, as in the sharp and burning rafter brake. And as a smith, to harden any tool, broad axe or mattock, in his trough doth cool the red hot substance, that so fervent is, it makes the cold waves straight to seethe and hiss, so saw'd and hiss'd his eye about the stake. He roar'd withal, and all his cavern brake in claps like thunder. We did frighted fly, dispers'd in corners. He from forth his eye the fix'd stake pluck'd, after which the blood flow'd freshly forth, and mad he hurl'd the wood about his hovel. Out he then did cry for other Cyclops, that in caverns by upon a windy promontory dwell'd, who, hearing how impetuously he yell'd, rush'd every way about him, and inquire what ill afflicted him, that he expir'd such horrid clamours, and in sacred night to break their sleep so; ask'd him, if his fright came from some mortal that his flocks had driven, or if by craft or might his death were given. He answer'd from his den, "By craft nor might no man hath given me death." They then said right, "If no man hurt thee, and thyself alone, that which is done to thee by Jove is done, and what great Jove inflicts no man can fly. Pray to thy father yet, a Deity, and prove from him if thou canst help acquire." Thus spake they, leaving him, when all on fire My heart with joy was, that so well my wit And name deceiv'd him, whom now pain did split, And groaning up and down he groping tried To find the stone; which found, he put aside, But in the door sat, feeling if he could, As his sheep issued, on some man lay hold, Esteeming me a fool that could devise No stratagem to 'scape his gross surprise. But I, contending what I could invent, My friends and me from death so eminent To get deliver'd, all my wiles I wove, Life being the subject, and did this approve: Fat fleecy rams most fair and great lay there, That did a burden like a violet bear. These, while this learned in villainy did sleep, I yok'd with osiers cut there, sheep to sheep, 3 in a rank, and still the mid sheep bore A man about his belly, the 2 more March'd on his each side for defence. I then, choosing myself the fairest of the den, His fleecy belly under crept, embrac'd His back, and in his rich wool wrapp'd me fast With both my hands, arm'd with as fast a mind. And thus each man hung, till the morning shin'd; Which come, he knew the hour, and led abroad His male flocks first. The females unmilk'd stood, bleating and braying, their full bags so sore With being unemptied, but their shepherd more With being unsighted, which was cause his mind Went not a milking. He to wreak inclin'd, the backs felt, as they pass'd, of those male dams, Gross fool, believing we would ride his rams, Nor ever knew that any of them bore Upon his belly any man before. The last ram came to pass him, with his wool And me together loaded to the full. For there I did hang, and that ram he stay'd, And me withal had in his hands. My head troubled the while, not causelessly, Nor least this ram he grop'd and talk'd to: "Lazy beast, why last art thou now? Thou hast never us'd to lag thus hindmost, But still first hast bruis'd the tender blossom Of a flow'r, and held state in thy steps, Both to the flood and field, first still at fold At even, now last remain? Dost thou not wish I had mine eye again, which that abhorred man No man did put out, assisted by his Execrable rout, when he had wrought me down with wine? But he must not escape my wreak so cunningly. I would to heav'n thou knew'st, and could but speak, To tell me where he lurks now. I would break his brain about my cave, strew'd here and there, To ease my heart of those foul ills, that were The inflictions of a man I priz'd at nought." Thus let he him abroad; when I, once brought A little way from his hold, myself first loos'd, And next to my friends. Then drave we and dispos'd his straight legged fat fleece bearers over land, Ev'n till they all were in my ship's command, And to our lov'd friends show'd our pray'd for sight, Escap'd from death. But, for our loss, outright They brake in tears; which with a look I stay'd, And bade them take our boot in. They obey'd, And up we all went, sat, and us'd our oars. But having left as far as the savage shores As one might hear a voice, we then might see The Cyclop at the haven, when instantly I stay'd our oars, and this insultance us'd: "Cyclop, thou shouldst not have so much abus'd Thy monstrous forces, to oppose their least Against a man immartial, and a guest, And eat his fellows. Thou mightst know there were Some ills behind, rude swain, for thee to bear, That fear'd not to devour thy guests, and break All laws of humans. Jove sends therefore wreak, And all the Gods, by me." This blew the more his burning fury, when the top he tore From off a huge rock, and so right a throw Made at our ship, that just before the prow It overflew and fell. Miss'd mast and all exceeding little, but about the fall so fierce a wave it rais'd, that back it bore our ship so far it almost touch'd the shore. A bead hook then, a far extended one, I snatch'd up, thrust hard, and so set us gone some little way, and straight commanded all to help me with their oars, on pain to fall again on our confusion. But a sign I with my head made, and their oars were mine in all performance. When we off were set, then first, twice further, my heart was so great, it would again provoke him. But my men on all sides rush'd about me to contain, and said, Unhappy! Why will you provoke a man so rude, that with so dread a stroke given with his rock dart, made the sea thrust back our ship so far, and near hand forced our wrack? Should he again but hear your voice resound, and any word reach, thereby would be found his dart's direction, which would, in his fall, crush piecemeal us, quite split our ship and all. So much dart wields the monster. Thus urg'd they impossible things, in fear, but I gave way to that wrath which so long I held depress'd, by great necessity conquer'd in my breast. Cyclop! If any ask thee who impos'd thy unsightly blemish that thine eye enclos'd, say that Ulysses, old Laertes' son, whose seat is Ithaca, and who hath won surname of City raiser, boarded out. At this he bray'd so loud that round about he drave affrighted echoes through the air, and said, O beast! I was premonish'd fair by aged prophecy, in one that was a great and good man, this should come to pass. And how 'tis proved now. Augur Talamus, surnam'd Eurymedes, that spent with us his age in augury, and did exceed in all presage of truth, said all this deed should this event take, author'd by the hand of one Ulysses, whom I thought was mann'd with great and goodly personage, and bore a virtue unanswerable, and this shore should shake with weight of such a conqueror. When now a weakling came, a dwarfy thing, a thing of nothing, who yet wit did bring that brought supply to all, and with his wine put out the flame where all my light did shine. Come, land again, Ulysses, that my hand may guest rights give thee, and the great command that Neptune hath at sea I may convert to the deduction where abides thy heart with my solicitings, whose son I am, and whose fame boasts to bear my father's name. Nor think my hurt offends me, for my sire can soon repose in it the visual fire, at his free pleasure, which no power beside can boast of men or of the deified. I answer'd, Would to God I could compel both life and soul from thee, and send to hell those spoils of nature. Hardly Neptune then could cure thy hurt, and give thee all again. Then flew fierce vows to Neptune, both his hands to star‐born heav'n cast. O thou that all lands gird'st in thy ambient circle, and in air shak'st the curled tresses of thy sapphire hair, if I be thine, or thou mayst justly vaunt thou art my father, hear me now, and grant that this Ulysses, old Laertes' son, that dwells in Ithaca, and name hath won of city ruiner, may never reach his natural region; or if to fetch that, and the sight of his fair roofs and friends, be fatal to him, let him that amends for all his miseries, long time and ill, smart for, and fail of, nor that fate fulfil till all his soldiers quite are cast away in others' ships. And when, at last, the day of his sole landing shall his dwelling show, let detriment prepare him wrongs enow. Thus pray'd he Neptune, who his sire appear'd, and all his prayer to every syllable heard. But then a rock, in size more amplified than first, he ravish'd to him, and implied a dismal strength in it, when, wheel'd about, he sent it after us. Nor flew it out from any blind aim, for a little pass beyond our foredeck from the fall there was, which the sea our ship gave back upon, and shrunk up into billows from the stone, our ship again repelling near as near the shore as first. But then our rowers were, being warn'd, more arm'd, And stronglier stemm'd the flood, that bore back on us, Till our ship made good the other island, Where our whole fleet lay, in which our friends Lay mourning for our stay, and ev'ry minute look'd when we should land; where, now arriv'd, we drew up to the sand, The Cyclops' sheep dividing, that none there Of all our privates might be wrung, and bear Too much on pow'r. The ram yet was alone, By all my friends made all my portion Above all others; and I made him then A sacrifice for me, and all my men, To cloud compelling Jove that all commands, To whom I burn'd the thighs; but my sad hands Receiv'd no grace from him, who studied how To offer men and fleet to overthrow. All day, till sun set, yet we sat and eat, And liberal store took in of wine and meat. The sun then down, and place resign'd to shade, We slept. Morn came; my men I rais'd, and made All go aboard, weigh anchor, and away. They boarded, sat, and beat the aged sea, And forth we made sail, sad for loss before; Any yet had comfort since we lost no more.